Taylor Swift is taking a bite out of Apple's pockets. I'm Catherine Witherspoon, and I'll tell you how some Central New York artists are responding to this change coming up on NCC News.
For the first time in 40 years, the state is stocking this nearby lake with fish. I'm Tara DeSantis, and I'll have that story coming up on NCC News.
Evidence has been found in the search for the escaped prisoners. We'll tell you how that will affect the search. NCC News at 4 starts now.
A pop superstar has Central New York musicians singing her praises today. I'm Brad Spellich.
And I'm Lauren Coleman. A major music distributor is changing its tune after being called out on social media. That's our top story. NCC News reporter Catherine Witherspoon was downtown today seeing how the change will affect local artists.
When a big-name music superstar like Taylor Swift gets the attention of a big-name music streaming company like Apple Music, the effects don't just help those artists who are already on the top of the charts, it helps those who are trying to make their way on the charts as well. Taylor Swift, a superstar in the music industry, made headlines when she prompted Apple Music to pay artists during its 3-month introductory period. Well, this change doesn't just help other big-name artists, it helps artists in the Central New York area as well.
I think what she did for the Apple Music is definitely a good thing. They should definitely be paying for everything during those free trials.
Billy Cook, an engineer at Subcat Music Group here in Syracuse, says a free trial should mean artists aren't paid for their work.
Well, I would have thought that they would be legally obligated to pay them, even if they're giving a free trial. It's kind of giving a free trial of their product, and they're kind of supposed to eat the losses there.
Local artists here in Syracuse use the instruments here in the basement of the Subcat Music Studios to create the music that they intend on being paid for.
This record's been in the top 5 on the blues charts since it was released, so like 12 or 13 weeks now.
And the music, like this hit song, was created right here in Syracuse.
We're hoping it gets nominated and makes a run for a Grammy, actually.
And the work artists create here isn't just a hobby, it's their livelihood.
You can't pay National Grid, you can't pay, your car bills with passion, unfortunately.
I spoke with Ulf Osterley, a professor in music and entertainment industries with the Brandeer program. He says that it's amazing to have the most recognized person in the industry confront a large music company like Apple. He says this is a bigger symbolic move than anything.
Syracuse University's athletic department now has a new athletic director. Cuse Athletics today introduced Mark Coyle as the next athletic director. Coyle was responsible for 20 athletic programs and more than 400 student athletes at his former university, Boise State.
I cannot tell you how excited me and my family are to be at Syracuse. It's something we dreamt about, to be at an institution with an outstanding academic reputation, to be at an institution that has a phenomenal sports background, and I can't tell you how excited we are to be here and to help this program grow and do even better things in the future.
Coyle will take over his new role on July 6th. For the 4th time since 1999, there's discussion for a new area code in Central New York. One state senator is questioning the need to change the 315 area code. Senator Patty Ritchie says adding a second area code will cause confusion. The Public Service Commission estimates the CNY region will run out of available codes by the first quarter of 2017. The 315 area code currently serves 18 counties in New York.
This year, Governor Cuomo and state lawmakers are increasing school funding across New York State. The funding for schools will increase by $1.2 billion. New York is supposed to distribute the majority of money based on poverty and need. Syracuse ranks as the 10th poorest school district and will receive nearly $13,000 per pupil. This puts Syracuse at number 93 on statewide ranking. The Syracuse man will spend at least 40 years in prison. The Post-Standard says Jeremiah Lazoa sentenced today to 25 years to life for shooting Andrew Doyle outside the John Lawrence Apartments in 2012. The 24-year-old was sentenced to another 15 years for an illegal weapon charge. The gunman shot Doyle because he refused to let him into the apartment to collect a drug debt. The Syracuse Council votes in favor to overturn the Citizens United ruling. At noon today, supporters in favor of the vote rallied at Syracuse City Hall prior to the Common Council's vote. The constitutional amendment would allow greater limits on the influence of money in elections. The affirmative vote makes Syracuse the 665th city nationwide to call for such an amendment. The search for the escaped prisoners in this week is the third week. State police are focusing their search upstate. That makes our top story.
New York State Police have moved the search for the 2 prisoners who escaped a maximum security prison more than 2 weeks ago back to upstate New York. State Police Major Charles Guest says police have discovered items in a cabin that may be in connection to the 2 prisoners, David Sweat and Richard Matt.
We have recovered specific items from that cabin. We have forwarded them to the appropriate laboratories and reached conclusive determination, but we are not prepared to release that evidence at this time, so we do not jeopardize the continuity of the investigation.
Major Guest says the cabin is located near Owl's Head, about 20 miles west of the Clinton Correctional Facility where the prisoners escaped. Funeral services this morning for the 2 brothers who died in a kayaking accident on the Seneca River. Robert and Joseph Meade drowned nearly 2 weeks ago when their kayaks overturned near a dam on the Seneca River in Baldwinsville. Robert Meade was engaged to be married, and Joseph Meade had a wife.
A 35-year-old construction worker has drowned after falling into the Genesee River in downtown Rochester this morning. Authorities say the man fell off a workboat and became trapped under the water. Fire officials say the man was working under the Interloop Bridge. He was attached to a safety line to prevent him from going over the nearby high falls. Wegmans is recalling some of its bottled water that may contain E. coli. The supermarket is recalling its 16.9-ounce bottles of Wegmans Food You Feel Good About Spring Water. Packs of 12, 24, and 35 are included in the recall. Bottles with dates of Best Buy between June 10, 2016 to June 18, 2016 are affected. Niagara LCC is labeled on the recalled bottles. Customers can return the recalled bottled water to any Wegmans for a full refund. You can fish for free without a fishing license this coming weekend, anywhere in New York State. On Saturday and Sunday, residents and visitors can fish anywhere off the 7,500 lakes and ponds. Governor Cuomo has signed new legislation that increases the number of free fishing days yearly. This year, Veterans Day has also been designated as one of those days.
Today marked a special occasion at Cazenovia Lake. Years in the making. This morning drew a small crowd to witness the event on the shore.
NCC News reporter Terry DeSantis visited the lake and is here in the studio with details.
It's a beautiful all-sports lake in central New York, and today Cazenovia Lake received 23,000 extra reasons it'll attract visitors.
That's not an ordinary hose. The water streaming out contains a bunch of tiny fish.
The first time since the late 1970s we're stocking walleye in the lake.
The baby walleyes hatched at the Oneida Fish Hatchery not even 2 months ago. More than 23,000 of the hatchlings are being added to Cazenovia Lake.
In a lake this size, that's a pretty minuscule number of fish.
We are stocking walleye with the intent of trying to create a walleye fishery here that would be, which is they're a desirable species for sportsmen.
They're 50 days old about. So they'll grow by the fall to about 7 inches long. So right now they're about 1.5 inches. Let me get them in the water real quick.
Walleye thrive in cold water, so a boat is taking them towards the middle of the lake where they can find deeper waters, which will help them to survive.
The reason we're doing that is we stock them out at about 20-foot contour line and get them out away from shore into deeper water so they get away from some of the sunfish and bass predation that would occur if we stocked them right on shore. So it gives them a little better chance of survival rate initially off the bat as well. Yeah, everybody's very excited about the prospect of getting the fish back in here again.
It may take some time before the fish attract the desired sportsmen to the lake. Only a small percentage of the fish are expected to make it to adulthood. When they're several years old, walleye can grow up to 3 feet long. I'm Tara DeSantis. Back to you guys.
It's been a warm and clear day so far. NCC News weather reporter Emily DeVito is on the weather deck to tell us if the clear skies will hang around or if we'll be needing our umbrellas soon. Emily?
Brad, we've had a beautiful day on the first official start of summer. We've had clear skies, just a few clouds, but we will see some thunderstorms rolling in later tonight. Currently, it's about 81 degrees out, 49% humidity, which isn't bad at all. It makes it feel less sticky than what we were feeling last week. Now, like I said, we will see some thunderstorms past midnight. However, we can see these warm temperatures continue throughout the week. And coming up in my full forecast at 5, I'll tell you what other days we can expect to see storms rolling into central New York. Back to you in the studio.
Here's a look at some of the stories we'll have when we take you across the nation and around the world.
An Afghani official's confirmation vote is delayed. A suicide bombing in the capital city of Kabul postponed the vote early this morning. This and more just ahead on NCC News.
And the EU is deploying several ships to try to curb a major issue in the region. Doctors in Louisiana are Doctors in Louisiana are challenging abortion restrictions they consider unjust. The 6-day trial began this morning. The doctors who filed the suit will be allowed to testify anonymously. Lawyers for the state say the law's in place to protect women, but the doctors say the laws are just a way to outlaw abortions altogether. The Supreme Court released several decisions today. Opinions on Obamacare and gay marriage were not among them. The court ruled on everything from Spider-Man toys to raisins. One decision made was not here on appeal from a trustee trying to recover nearly $4 billion for victims of former stockbroker Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme. In an interview released today, President Barack Obama says the U.S. has not overcome its history of racism. The interview, conducted by comedian Mark Maron, covered issues about gun control, in addition to race relations. Obama said gun control was blocked in 2012 because the NRA's grip on Congress is extremely strong. An Army Review Board is deciding whether to end a general's career before he can retire. Major General Dana J.R. Pittard allegedly influenced defense contacts, according to a report issued today. While he did not profit personally, his involvement in the contract worth nearly $500,000 is being called excessive.
Talks intensified between Greek officials and international creditors. The Greek Prime Minister offered several proposals that were criticized by EU officials as too late or too vague. After a day of negotiations, the Prime Minister's most recent plan was able to break the 4-month deadlock in talks. Leaders from the 19-nation Eurozone are hoping to secure more credit for Greece. The EU is using naval force to combat human traffickers in the Mediterranean. The targets are the smugglers themselves, not the migrants, according to EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini. The EU plans to operate in international waters to destroy the business model of the traffickers. No members of the Afghani parliament were hurt in the bombing and subsequent standoff that took place early this morning. A vote confirming the country's first new defense minister in 9 months was delayed. 2 civilians were killed and 31 were wounded in the attack. Israel and Palestine may have committed war crimes during their war in Gaza last year. A report came out today alleging that Palestinian militants targeted civilians with rocket attacks and that Israeli forces used excessive force in civilian areas of the Gaza Strip. Both sides are denying the allegations.
A new restaurant for people with an active lifestyle. I'm Emily DeVito, and I'll tell you about a local place where you can grab a quick, healthy meal coming up on NCC News at 4.
Emily DeVito is live in the studio to tell us.
Eating healthy has gotten a little bit easier with a new restaurant that has opened in North Syracuse.
Emily DeVito is live in the studio to tell us about the place that's putting a new spin on fast food.
About a month ago, the owners of Jolimet Cafe in North Syracuse on Buckley Road decided to transform their restaurant. They knew people throughout Syracuse were looking for a place to eat that would cater to their active and healthy lifestyles. Core is known for its greens, grains, and bone broth bowls. You can order off the menu or build your own bowl by choosing from a slew of healthy options. The eatery is giving people a new, quick, and easy way to feel good after a meal.
There was a demand out there for people that want to eat clean, healthy food and walk into a place, and you know what it feels like when you eat a really healthy meal? Your body just feels like, this is so good. Like, that's what we wanted Core to be.
Caveney says in the past month he's noticed that when you use fresh ingredients, it keeps customers coming back. But with more people talking about the active lifestyle eatery, it's not just regulars coming in anymore.
And I met a lady today that drove 50 miles from Clayton, New York, because she heard about it. She wanted to bring her mom. She heard about, the food is really great, but it was really clean and healthy for you. And they just turned it into a destination.
Some ingredients are even grown right here in the restaurant, like this one here.
Because sometimes we can find organic, sometimes it's local, other times of the year it's going to be just the best source. But they all have one thing in common, and they're really clean. No GMOs.
Core says they are working on adding new menu boards with gluten and dairy-free options. Now, the Core on Buckley Road is expected to be a flagship location of what will hopefully be a chain of these healthy eateries.
Chess is a game with a worldwide appeal.
But could it be considered a sport? We'll tell you if you'll see it soon on the world stage.
Syracuse University has a new director of athletics. The Chiefs begin a 4-game homestand tonight at NBT Bank Stadium, and the Yankees host the Phillies in the Bronx, and the Mets entertain the Brewers at Citi tomorrow. Well, chess is a thinking man's game. With chess on the docket for consideration into the 2020 Olympics, local players had much to say about its potential as a sport.
But is it a sport? Chess is among 26 sports that have applied for inclusion into the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. The additional event program panel is determining today if it is to be included as part of a shortlist agenda item. The IOC will make the final decision in August of next year. While it is primarily a mental game, Blesh is more than willing to call it a sport when compared to another sport like curling.
A grandmaster has to do an enormous amount of like running, cardio, all types of stuff to prepare the body physically for entering into combat.
Despite the game's physical toll, the chances of it being included are low. The competition includes baseball, softball, and squash. All three lost out when the IOC reinstated wrestling for 2020 2 years ago. Blesh says including chess in the Olympics would make it a global event and not just a game played by small groups of people.
Because every country could send, 4 plus maybe 2 backup players, and it would be something where the world could watch and learn.
Blesh believes the response in Syracuse would be overwhelmingly positive, both for the physical and intellectual aspects of the game.
There is a strong scholastic movement in Syracuse There's 4 or 5 chess clubs that meet in Syracuse on different nights that cater to different neighborhoods and different people and localities.
While the Olympics once hosted competition in poetry and literature in ancient Greece, chess may soon get its checkmate as a legitimate sport.
An astronaut is taking selfies that are out of this world.
We'll have that story coming up when we return on NCC News.
We'll have your full weather and sports coming up at 4:45, and Jonathan Kahn is in the newsroom to tell you what else to expect.
Coming up at 4:45, the Jamesville DeWitt Middle School's sit-up world record is being questioned by Guinness officials. The Chief won in walk-off fashion on Father's Day yesterday. Tony Gwynn Jr. hit the game-winning single on his first Father's Day without his dad, former San Diego Padres outfielder Tony Gwynn. Plus, we'll tell you about a cat who won an award meant for dogs. That's what's next on NCC News at 4:45. Back to you, Lauren and Brad.
An astronaut is taking selfies from more than 220 miles above Earth. Astronaut Scott Kelly is currently on a 1-year mission on the International Space Station. His goal is to study the impact of weightlessness on the human body.
And that's it for NCC News at 4. I'm Lauren Coleman.
I'll tell you, Lauren, it's really interesting to see. You wouldn't need a selfie stick out in space because you can just sort of float the camera out there and hit the button. What kind of photos do you think you'd take if you were on the International Space Station?
I just love taking selfies, so I probably do, a peace sign or kissy face, duck face.
Take a picture of the world, like you get your hand above it, like they do with all the monuments.
And that's it for NCC News at 4. I'm Lauren Coleman.
And I'm Brad Spellich. For all of us here at NCC News, thank you for your time and have a great evening.